distinct areas, yeah, if I may call it. One is in data centers. We use a lot of data today, and to power that economy, we need a lot of data centers. So we're active in data centers. We're active in grid and infrastructure. So, for example, if you generate power today in Takwel, you need the power in Nairobi. So there's that whole grid that connects that. And you also need to build an SGR or a railway between here and Mombasa, for example. So that kind of business requires energy.
Yes.
We're also in buildings, where we spend a lot of our time in. We're sitting in a building today. You need energy in a building like today. And then this sector where I work is in industry, which industry is further divided into 4 areas. I will not get into the details of that. I'm responsible for one, which part of industry, which is in manufacturing. Industry can also be oil and gas, for example. It can also be mining, metals and minerals.
Yes.
And it can also be water and wastewater. So
yes.
those are different sectors in industry that we work in.
I want to ask you the next question in this particular area, by the way, and you're in a very critical sector, that any other government has come on board, Frank, I know you do know that, has said that we need to unlock the manufacturing sector.
Absolutely.
But then, specifically, because I'm going to ask you about industrialization 4.0.
Absolutely.
In this regard.
Yes.
Is it something that we're trying to figure, or we've started? Because then every other manufacturer in the country is talking about the cost of doing business. And one thing stands out, Frank, cost of energy.
Absolutely.
So talk to me about that in respect to industrialization 4.0.
Yes.
Are we chasing shadows as a country when we're talking about industrialization 4.0 and this unlocking of the manufacturing sector, especially on energy cost?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's a long topic. We can have a whole day.
I know, yes. Yes.
I want to break it down into industrialization is a process that takes steps. We all know there have been 4 steps of industrial revolution, from agrarian revolution to beginning steam engines to engine, and then electrification is a further. Then industrialization, Industry 4.0 today is about digitalization. And when we talk about digitalization, it's digitalization, not digitization.
It is, hold on, digitalization.
It's
not
digital.
It is
digitalization.
Okay.
Yes. So it's about connecting everything in the process. So again, what is Schneider Electric? Maybe I can also delve a little bit. Schneider Electric's purpose is to empower all to make the most of our energy and resources. Yeah, but how do we do that? We do that by becoming your partner for digitalization and sustainability. Yeah, so those could be big words, but let me break it down. That today, and we've said very clearly, we had Vision 20 by 30 launched by the president the other day, whose whole purpose is to do what? Is to create, to make sure that our economy, manufacturing sector grows to over 20% contribution to GDP by 2030. At the moment, you're at about 7%, a paltry 7%. And why is this important? It's because the value chain in manufacturing sector has a trickle-down effect or impacts every sector of the economy. Yeah, people get more jobs, farmers get markets to their products, we are able to buy locally produced material, we consume more energy. If we build 10 factories here, we're talking about thousands of people being employed. So the effect of that ripples down to other sectors of the economy is very critical. Instead of us buying, I take a basic product, milk from Uganda. If we produce that milk by a factory right here in Lavington, we've created employment for the youth, we've created a market for the farmers, we have employed people to do distribution, we have products in supermarkets, so the trickle-down effects, and everybody in the value chain gets a piece of the pie. So that's why it's very important. Now, on digitalization or Industry 4.0,
yes, we
are there, I would say, but it is a journey that takes time. And this journey takes, and I mean, it's an investment that is required. We see customers or partners that we deal with every day in that journey. Not everybody is at the same phase of growth, but it's a step-by-step process that takes time and also knowledge on what the impact of Industry 4.0 is.
Yes.
But why are people adopting Industry 4.0 digitalization today? Again, in this sector of manufacturing, it's about competitiveness. If I can produce a liter of juice at a shilling less than you, means I can transfer that benefit to the end customer. What is the impact of that? I'm driving more competitiveness. I mean, if I was supposed to sell X X amount, I'm going to sell X plus 10. So that means my business is more competitive than my competitor. Why? Because I have adopted digitalization to drive my processes.
Yes.
And become more efficient.
Yes. Point in case, Frank, that you partner with these particular manufacturers.
Yes.
Talk to them about sustainability, which essentially again comes back to cost.
Yes.
Do you have solutions? And people are saying that in this country we are lagging behind. Where we give solutions and then 5 years later we come back, there's another solution in the market. 6 years later, there's another solution in the market.
Yes.
Do you think that is what is ailing the energy sector in the country, in the sense of that we don't have long-term viable solutions that we can push to these manufacturers and say, well, this is a long-term solution that we as Schneider know very well is going to last you an entirety?
So what we do, and that's why I began by saying we have a global view and a global approach.
Yes.
And I'll tell you today, the technology we deploy here is as best as it comes the world over. We are in different stages of adoption, and all this comes to at what stage of development are we? We must admit we're an emerging economy. It's a process, and digitalization is not only about machines, it's about, in the end, digitalization is about people. It's about how do we adopt technology from an investment point of view? How do we adapt technology from a usability point of view? We have customers today or manufacturers today who have adopted Industry 4.0 in their facets of operation. And like I said, it's a journey that you continue to implement. You continue to make processes more automated.
Yes.
If talk about manufacturing, which is a sector that I work in every day. If, let's say, a simple process, I produce milk, which we know we all need every day. How have I connected my processes from the market? I know how much demand there is in the market today. Tomorrow, I have a projection for the year. How is that connecting to the processes that I have here to produce that to my value chain? Is if it's from the farm all the way up? And how am I using all this information to drive my business and to make decisions on what to invest in, how many people to employ, how many farmers to engage, for example, what kind of products to produce for the market, and at what cost? That's the whole digitalization when I talk about that sector, because you're coming the entire value chain. You have to make decisions out of information, not a gut feeling that I think this is what we need. No, that's not. Then that's the transition.
As an individual who talks to manufacturers every single day, trying to talk to them about digitalization and sustainability, do you find that cost is the defining factor to the adoption of these solutions right here in the country?
Yes, cost is an important. There are a number of important factors. Number one, cost. I'm not saying that any one of them is not important. Number two, quality. When you adopt digitalization, you have a better and more consistent quality.
Yes.
Number three, what generation is getting into employment today? The 25-year-olds you talk about. These are Gen Zs, and Generation X are even getting out of. So these people are used to so much digitalization in the world. If I'm to attract you to come and work in my company, it needs to be a comfortable environment. So how do you then manage the workforce? Another thing that's driving is also regulation. Regulation today demands that we have to be more digitalized, because show me where you produce, at what cost, and what is the source of your raw materials. So you have to have track and trace possibilities to be able to do that. Compliance. Tomorrow KEBS asks you, we want to give you a certificate, but we want to know what quality steps you took along the way. That drives digitalization, the sustainability. We live in a world here today that the population is growing at a very fast rate. In Kenya here, for example, they say the population is growing, or in sub-Saharan Africa where we live, double the world population growth rate. If the world population is growing at 1.3%, we are growing at almost 2.6%. Our rate of urbanization has never been seen before. More people live in this city every day than they lived the previous day. If we're going to grow population, we're going to urbanize as fast as we are, it has to be a sustainable business. And the greatest lever for that, in my considered opinion, is an even faster acceleration on digitalization to enable us meet the demands. Remember, not that land is a factor that's limited. Production can only be limited to certain resources. But the key thing driving digitalization today is how much more efficient can we be in producing that? How much more less costs can I use to produce this? And that's an onus for us, for generations that come after us. What are we going to leave this planet for the people that come? If we're going to destroy all the natural resources, then what is it going to be of benefit to future generations?
Yes.
And had our forefathers done that, we would not have been here today. So that's what drives us every day, and that's why digitalization is not a luxury. It's not a journey that we can say Industry 4.0 is only for the developer. We have to adopt it. We have to have adopted it yesterday.
Yesterday, isn't it?
Exactly.
I like
if
the way
not the day before.
Yeah. Like the way you say that. I want to take you back a little bit, Frank.
Yeah.
For somebody looking at you
Yes.
as an engineer now,
Yes.
who's working in a very important sector within the economy,
Yeah.
are you all about energy and sustainability and digitalization? How do you find your own purpose in life?
My own purpose in life.
That's a tough question, though.
Yes. I've been asked that as well before. I don't really look myself, I mean, I think as much as I have a background as an engineer and working in energy, as only obsessed by that. No, I mean, I think later on in life, and the exposure that I've had in life has made me connected. Look, at the end of the day, it's making the world a better place.
Yes.
I mean, and I got, later on in life, when I went to business school, I realized purpose in life has to be all largely about what impact do you leave behind.
As an individual?
As an individual, in whatever facet you do, as an individual, how can I make the world better today? What's my contribution to making the world better today? And at the end of the day, it's not about the very technical, very hard questions. But if I may use the term that we use here at Kenya quite often, how is what I'm doing today making life for Wanjiku tomorrow better? Or the Wanjiku that will come after that?
I see.
And at the end of the day, it has to be, can they access what they require to run their day-to-day life easier, better, and more affordable? Yeah, energy plays a critical part in that, but digitalization as well connects all this together. Yeah, so it's not about businesses making more money, but how do we make the planet better for everyone? How do we empower everyone to be able to achieve at least the basics of what they need every day?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you driven by your career, Frank, or there's something different that drives you, then your career becomes part of that drive? You say,
I'm driven more by the need and the hope that we can leave this planet better for the generations that come after us. It's just that I happen to be to have taken this career path, and that's why I do what I do every day, to contribute to making that better. How do we make our world more sustainable? How do I make it more affordable for Wanjiku to get a glass of milk tomorrow, or for Simba to get a glass of juice after this interview? How do we bring the resources that make that possibility possible? How do you sit here in a more comfortable room today and not sweating because it's too hot? So solutions that drive livability and, to a large extent, comfort in life is what drives me every day. I would do that every morning when I wake up. I would be driven by that.
Yeah, but which was my next question.
Yes.
Are you one of those people who say, it's another day for work, or it's another day to serve?
It is another day to serve, and like I've said before, it's another day to make our world better, would be my mantra.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Let's look at East Africa, because I know Schneider is also on that area as well, in your umbrella of a business. Yes, you would look at Kenya and say we're just scratching the surface, but when you look at East Africa, where are we? What are the opportunities that we've not really looked at yet?
The massive opportunities. And so earlier on I said, look, if we only look at how fast our population is growing and how fast urbanization is growing, this is happening across all the geographies. We are different phases. When I look at electrification and energy penetration, in Kenya, largely due to government initiatives and whatever, we say access to electricity as a matrix is almost about 71%. I mean, 71% reasonably can access electricity.
Yes.
But in different parts of Eastern Africa, if we only stick to Eastern Africa, but we can still make it at a wider scale, but let's stick to the conversation of Eastern Africa today. Different countries are in different phases of electrification. We talk about 71% here in Kenya. You find other countries like Tanzania will be talking about 40%, maybe Uganda 50%, and we have geographies like Ethiopia at also maybe another 50%. South Sudan, for example, 7-10%
yes.
of electrification. That tells you the challenge we need to bridge. So the region is growing at different phases based on very many different circumstances, but the potential is there. We have massive resources to be able to generate electricity. But do you know for a fact today that over 60% of energy generated goes into waste. And that's where digitalization comes in and what we drive at Schneider Electric.
Yes.
How can we make the best of the resources that we generate today? I mean, if you generate 60% power from, let's say, Turkwell, and 60% of it is wasted before it gets to serve us here in Nairobi, for example, for the matter of where we are today, how do we make this better? And making this better is by making it more connected. And that is what this brings about digitalization. And when we talk about Industry 4.0, it's not only in manufacturing space, it's from the generation, the transmission, to the distribution, and how we even consume energy at our homes. So we have a huge gap to bridge, and energy is a path to dignity, if I may say. I mean, yes. Having energy means you can have lighting, children can go to school. Energy drives you from here. You have a meeting this afternoon and the rest. You need energy to make that transition. I'm yes. talking about electric cars, or we're talking about any other form of transport. Even if it's a petroleum-driven engine, it's energy that takes you from point A to point B. It's energy that makes you be able to produce food. It's energy that makes you grow the economy. So that's why it's the center of what we do every day. Yeah.
People in Korea,
yes.
they normally have a timeline when they say, well, I'm in the private sector, I don't have to abide by retirement ages. Yes. If I want to ask you, in just a minute or so, paint for me a picture of your career in this particular sector in 20 years to come.
Well, in 20 years to come...
I'm not going to ask you whether you're going to be CEO.
No. Again, that can be part of the process.
It can be part of the process.
I've always had this bearing in mind. But in 20 years to come, I look myself to have made more contribution in this particular sector of industrialization and automation space. I have a particular keen interest now even to do research on how we can accelerate the entire digitalization in our context, and specifically looking at the manufacturing sector. I believe we need more than just private industry players to do this.
Yes.
We will need government contribution.
Yes.
We will need the masses to be aware of. And if you ask me 20 years from now, I strongly believe I need to make much more contribution directly into the industrialization coalition.
And that's it.
And I've gathered enough expertise, I've gathered enough experience, I've seen what it takes. I know what it takes to do that. Putting those bits and pieces to have bigger impact, be it becoming an industrialist, for example, or driving the industrialization agenda at a wider scale. That's where I see myself 10, 20 years from today.
Frank.
Yes.
Thank you very much for making time.
Thank you as well.
This was lovely.
It was a pleasure as
well.
It
was lovely.
It was a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Now that is Frank Moy, who's the head of business, Schneider Electric, actually head of industry business. Let me be very specific. Yes. Schneider Electric. This has been another successful episode. Next week, we'll meet you again with another one. My name is Simba Kiage. See ya. See you next week. That's it.